Hello, folks, and welcome back to another episode of the Black Coffee Comics Podcast. It is I, your lovely host, Ty Blaque and Kulture.
And I'm the awesome co-host, Space Lloyd 8.
I'm just calling you the lovely host, co-host.
I could be lovely.
You can be, but you
and
gotta
I am
say
also the
lovely.
lovely co-host, Space Lloyd 8.
There we go. Now I feel special.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, welcome back, guys. Listen, today, complete disclaimer, disclosure, all that good stuff. 1, everything I say in this podcast is alleged. 2, all of these are my opinions. Don't take these to heart except for part 2, in which case I mean every single bit of word of what I say. And if you don't like me, come at me, bro.
Facts.
Facts. So, yeah, with that being said, I'm sure you're sitting there as you're driving to your job, chilling on the couch with your teacup, just like, fill my cup, what's going on? Today's podcast is a little bit different than our normal one. We've got 2 pretty wild comics that we're reviewing and that we're talking about today.
You're gonna have to strap in for this one, because we already recorded this specific session, and the first recording was about 2 hours and 8 minutes long.
2 hours and 8 minutes long.
Because yeah. it was just that. You'll see. You'll see.
But today on our docket, we've got 2 comics. One is the Starboy comics, released by Marvel Comics and the Weeknd himself. Written by Abel Tesfaye, Lamar Taylor, and Christos Gage, and illustrated by Eric Nguyen. Eric Nguyen. With colorist being Guru EFX, letterer being VC's Joe Sabino, and cover art done by Eric Nguyen as well as Guru EFX. And then we have the webcomic, available on Black Sands Publishing app, called Flame, released by Black Page Comics, written by Everett Montgomery, and illustrated by his wife, we will respectfully call Mrs. Montgomery. And yeah,
You ready to dive into these?
Got my coffee.
I mean, the topic of the day, honestly, is we could say controversial comics. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little controversial. Yeah. Some controversial comics.
Tough comics.
Because
we definitely we have absolutely up to now given reviews on comics that we already know, we love, or absolutely there isn't much to debate on.
Yeah.
Where it's pretty clear cut. We had a whole bunch of espressos, but what will be the point of giving the espresso tier? For those of you that may be tuning in for the first time, if this is your first episode, we have a rating system when we go through these comics. So you have based on the type of roast, because I used to be a barista at the one with the siren, but they didn't sponsor us, so I'm not going to say their name. You have dark roast, which is like the base level, as in there was a lot missing, it left a lot to be desired, something I would never pick up again. Medium roast is, okay, there was a lot to work on, but it had at least something lovable. I would at least finish the series. It's okay. But then you have blonde roast, which has the most caffeine as far as regular coffee goes. So it's energetic. It's something you might read once or twice. Something that you might recommend to talk about with someone else because it had some dope elements, whether you recognize them or not. But then you have the espresso, where each element was so thoroughly concentrated on, from the lettering to the artwork, matching the story, and the pace was on point. Something that you definitely have to start your day off the right way with.
Absolutely recommendable. And these comics are definitely on 2 different sides of the coffee spectrum. I'm not going to ruin it for you, so we could just vibe through it. But yeah, let's get right into the comics. Starting off our lovely comic review, we're going to go over the loved Starboy comic. Man.
This was a solid.
This was so good. So let's just go ahead and get right into the overview. What is Starboy about? So the best way I can explain Starboy, and of course you can correct me if I'm wrong, if there's a better way to chop it up, but Starboy follows this city called Megatown, in which crime is absolutely
Alphatron.
Alphatron?
Alphatron is the name of the city.
Alphatron is made of the city. So what's Megatown?
It says it's a mega city of Alphatron. So it's just a...
See, this is why you're here, to correct me if I'm wrong. It's called Alphatron.
Yep.
So Alphatron is the city that's riddled with crime from top to bottom, being run ragged by a villain of sorts called Mr. Smiley. And right now, basically, we're at a crime war between Mr. Smiley and the police department. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, there is this brilliant... engineer scientist, if you will, named Mr. Star. He is basically revolutionizing the military force and the military efforts by introducing these military robots that are supposed to help cut down on crime.
It is a father-son duo. So the father is Isaac Star, and his son Jeremiah. So with him being the CEO, his son functions essentially as the brains, because he's putting all his energy with his dad to create this utopian society that's pushed forward by their ingenuity.
Correct. And because of all this, there's everyone in the town is starting to feel a little bit better. However, Mr. Smiley is a literal menace to society and is just not having it. So what happens when you have someone in your way, essentially, who's preventing you from causing the most havoc? Why, gosh darn, you've got to eliminate them. And basically the story follows Isaac as he is himself going through this interpersonal inner monologue about his meaning and his purpose in this world, and what he's doing valuable to the city? Is what he's doing really helping people? Is he himself does he even want to do what he's doing, or is he just doing it for his dad? As he's coming to the climax and trying to sort out all of his emotions, talking with his dad, he comes in, finds out that his dad is going through a little bit of a trouble with Mr. Smiley, who unfortunately promptly does something to his dad, and then after that, Jeremiah is put into a position where he could possibly make some huge changes in the city. That's the best way I can say without spoiling anything. Yeah. And yeah, that's a pretty good overview of Starboy.
I think overall, right? Without letting out too much, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I'm proud of myself. That was good.
You know what? Kudos to you.
Snap.
Yo, look at you taking these notes.
Right, notes.
With the dialogue to read along. God,
so proud.
Yeah. You're done good. You're done good already.
Thank you. Let's dive into the actual story itself, because what's an overview without getting into the bits? And warning, spoiler alert, because this is your only opportunity that you have to skip past if you don't want to hear the spoilers. However, I will just mention, Starboy's, as we get to the end, it's going to be hard to get your hands on anyway, so... That's
true. If anything, you got to look digital, because the hard copies, or even the paperbacks of this one issue alone are going to be
pretty
super hard to find. Yep.
But we'll get to that. Let's go ahead and get started right into it. Let's start off with the creators. Again, as I mentioned before, it is written by Abel Tesfaye, aka The Weeknd himself, the titular Starboy.
Hell yeah.
You know, listen, I know that the lyrics and the sound didn't quite come out.
No, not at all.
But just go with me.
We're with you in spirit.
And it was also, as it was created and written by Abel, it was also has some co-writers, Lamar Taylor and Christos Gage. As far as the writing goes, I like the writers. The writers are dope.
The writers actually paid some pretty good respect to like how a father and son would interact when they're arguing. And it wasn't even like I'm just tired of you, Dad. Like instead he actually fleshed out what he was thinking.
Yeah.
Like we could have done this, but we did this instead. Why can't I just feel? And he ends with an argument, and then he comes back and he's like, okay, I'm gonna just apologize. We'll go back to everything being normal. And there is no normal when he sees his dad again. Mm-hmm. So like that, the dialogue flows with the pacing and like the composition of the panels. Things make sense.
Absolutely.
And it's super well. Even the dialogue in the
internal monologue.
Yeah, the internal monologue is on point.
Yeah, and the illustration is done again by Eric Nguyen. Did I say it right this time?
Eric Nguyen, yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. I'm getting better. Eric Nguyen. Of course, there's more than just the basic illustration. There's also the colorist, who's Guru EFX. and the letterer, who is VC's Joe Sabino. And I must say, the artist did a phenomenal job with this comic. 10 out of 10 cups. I love this. So great. So now we talked a little bit about the creators. Let's just get right into the backstory. Let's talk a little bit about the characters themselves. What are we dealing with here?
We're dealing with somebody for the villain that doesn't get too cheesy.
Oh yeah. Like he's perfectly cheesy.
Yeah, like perfectly.
He's like not I don't want to say this, but also I do want to say this. Like,
don't tell me you're about to do a pizza analogy.
No, I'm not going to do a pizza analogy.
Okay, good. Because I'm going to do a pizza analogy.
I was going to say he gives me like, you know how we expect the Joker, like he gives me Joker vibes, but without all the Joker fanatics. He gives me Joker more like Joker from The Killing Joke, the comics.
Yeah.
Where Joker was straight to the point.
Yeah, straight to the point.
Straight to the point. But also he still has a lot of that cynicism, that hilarity. He cracks jokes and like, yeah, you can tell he's fucked up in the head. However, he's really funny to listen. He's funny to listen to.
Yep. Without giving too much, there was one when they were like, "You bastard!" He said, "That's not very nice. I'll have you know, my parents were married." Wham!
He's so great. Mr. Smiley, who is in fact the villain, is also. Here's another thing I love about him. He's a cannibal, right? Just like
you love that he's a cannibal.
I do, and I know it's weird. Leave me alone.
I could just eat you up. Now, anytime I hear that, I will be concerned.
I'd never say that. But I like the fact, you know what? You know, most cannibals in stories like Hannibal Lecter or whatever other stories are cannibals. Like, I don't know. The cannibals just seems like a very... walk with me here through my mental here. The cannibal seems like a very unlikable guy. Like, I wouldn't want to sit down in a room with a cannibal, okay?
Yeah.
However, Mr. Smiley, high-key dinner with the man. You know, I ain't going to eat any of his food. But, you know, I can sit across the table from him.
You can sit across the table.
As long as I knew I was protected.
He literally said, "I know you won't have some, but this is your dad, Professor Star Au Juice." He had time to season the motherfucker before his son woke up.
Hey, listen. My daddy knew what it was before he walked in the room.
Could use a little bit of butter. Golly.
But he's just... Mr. Smiley is a likable villain. I love him. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. Mr. Smiley is a likable villain, and I like that. I'm, as a villain person, someone who loves villains, he's a top-notch villain. I think
he didn't seem too over-the-top crazy. Like, you think cannibal, and the first thing I think is somebody with crazy eyes all over the place. I'm just biting everything. Don't even shake my hands. I mean, he definitely has... But he also has, like... literal rose-colored glasses, and he's talking,
and he's kind of a fashionista, high key.
Yo, he is.
Listen,
the costume design for the
oh yeah, top notch. And then we move over to the self-insert, but not a Mary Sue, I should say. The self-insert Jeremiah, who's supposed to be a stand-in for like Abel himself.
Yeah.
He definitely has the likeness of the Weeknd. So if you're like, oh, like you're not gonna think like, oh, this isn't the Weeknd. He definitely looks like
it. Definitely is.
It's definitely the Weeknd, undeniably. But Isaac himself, the character, isn't like some Mary Sue character that you might see in somebody's like 2013 Wattpad story.
Yeah.
He's definitely a very well fleshed out character that's definitely separate from the entity that is the Weeknd, who has a lot of really complex thoughts, who has this kind of like cynicism and sarcasm to him that's like super fun.
It is.
Like, he definitely sounds like a millennial.
Oh yeah. And it sounds believable. You know, he's even when he's in a club, it's not like he's just blowing this money away. He really is weighed down as somebody that's like, I know I'm in this upper echelon. And his dad is like, look, I had to work for nothing. So you always have to... This dynamic between now that we have money, what do we do with it? He's like, well, we always have money as far as I've been alive. Let's do what we actually want. You know, and so this whole internal dialogue, it's not just a surface level rich kid. It's somebody that's like... Just like his albums, what happens when you have, quote unquote, when you quote unquote have it all. And I also kind of like the little advertisement plugs in the kind of shifting gears into the artwork. The cover, fire. Especially the one that's red, it sets it up properly for the story. It matches what you find within the contents, but then you go in.
Also, it's really simplistic. Like,
not too much.
The cover is it's dynamic and yet very tame all at the same time. You know, he's got the jet puffer jacket that's ripped with the arm that's glowing. You know,
but it's not like glowing with power. It looks like a burn.
It does.
Like he got it through an unfortunate circumstance.
Right. He looks exactly what you would expect perhaps a Starboy superhero would look like.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Moving into more of the artwork, one thing I'm just really vibing with is, you know me, I love a good color palette. I love when things are either pastel or dreary, and I think the color palette here is pretty dope.
You could tell Marvel was like, I'm not just going to give this secondhand effort.
Oh, yeah. This is a Marvel comic. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier. This is a collaboration comic between The Weeknd and Marvel. And this has Marvel level quality. Like, you don't have to guess, oh, is this a Marvel comic? Nah, bro. This is a Marvel comic.
In actuality, with the factuality, this is definitely well done. This was taken as seriously as The Weeknd takes himself seriously.
This was
anything with his name on it. You can tell it wasn't just, I'm just doing this because. Like, no, if this is gonna be me, do me right.
Right. And you can honestly, one thing I think that comes through in the artwork is Abel's love for comic books.
Yeah.
If you ever had a question that he loved comic books, this cements it here that there is a love there. He created this story and it comes through in the artwork. You can tell that his art team and the team that was at Marvel really took their time, and like, it just has such a great appeal. It gives you horror vibes. Mind you, this is like a gore-ish comic. There's a lot of gory scenes, but they are so well done.
They are.
It's definitely reminds me. There's a scene in the beginning of the comic, maybe first 3 pages or so, where it's these 3 officers that are being used basically by Mr. Smiley as a calling card to say, "Hey, I'm not leaving the city. This is my city." And they are complete, not to get too graphic here, but just so you know, completely dismembered, hacked, sawed in the most gruesome way possible. And they're crucified.
Yep.
They are crucified on sticks, and it's gross.
Yeah.
But if I were a cannibalistic maniac villain, yes, this would be it. This would be it. And it's so good.
It is.
It is so good.
It's appropriate, and the panels, whether they vary in size or even the positioning of them, I don't see anything that's off with it. Because you have them, like, if they're having a dialogue back and forth, they're looking in the right direction. You have the right scaling from, like, the background. And I have to mention this because of the other one. The background gets just as much love as the characters themselves.
But of course, it's a Marvel comic. What Marvel comic have you ever come across where you were just like, oh, the background doesn't match the characters? It's Marvel. Like, again, I have to mention that it's a Marvel comic. The lettering is going to be on point. The characters in the backgrounds are going to be on point. But
I have seen comics that were indie that sometimes the question be raised, why am I not put on the same tier as Marvel or DC? Well, and in some of those you don't see the details in the things that you don't readily look for and notice. So like a background might just be a room, but what else is in that room? Mm-hmm. Right? You don't have a table in there, but that's supposed to be your dining room. You don't have pictures on the wall, but this is supposed to be the room where you're reminiscing about the wife you lost. But you don't have any pictures in that room. Nothing changes if you try to transform in that room.
But also it depends on the story. Does the story call for it? I think that this particular story, where like the world building is so important in the story, the art has to raise to the level that the story is telling. By the way, just have to say, yes, you're right. The advertisements are fucking hilarious.
They are. They have this AI call girl service.
Yes.
Where it's like you can rent a robot or whatever.
Because the world itself is like cyberpunkish, like hyper future.
Yeah.
There's like I said, the
AILove.cxm.
Hilarious.
#1 robotic night service in Alphatron. Brand new parts fully customizable, over 100+ faces and bodies.
Listen, Japan's getting up there.
Man, I'm telling you. They won't let us in, but they'll definitely create something to take our place, goddamn.
Listen, so great. I love it.
Meet Desiree 3.0 tonight, goddamn.
I love all of like the self-insert ads. Like, it helps to further immerse you into the story. The art takes you there. The art, like I said, it's top-notch. It itself deserves its own 2-hour podcast. I could really get down that line.
Too bad I didn't see issue 2. But wait a minute.
We're not going to get there yet. We got to talk about the story.
We did.
We got to talk about the story.
We did.
We got to talk about the story.
Yeah.
Okay. So, overall, what did you think about the story? And then we talked about it a little bit, but like, what are your thoughts?
It did a lot within a couple pages. And it was beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
It even ended with like not even necessarily having a cliffhanger that makes you mad, like, dang, now I gotta wait. It was like, that's a good ass first impression. What comes next? So I love the story.
Yeah, and I think the story definitely did everything it needed to do. It gave what it was supposed to have gave. It came, it served, it lived. It exceeded my expectations for what in fact, I would say for what I wanted a Starboy comic to be, it is exactly the level of comic that I would expect from someone like The Weeknd. Yeah. Someone, especially The Weeknd, who already puts you in his world every time he releases an album or a song. Like, this is an amazing extension of his world. I loved it.
Yeah. So this definitely, on the scale, would absolutely be an espresso recommendation.
Oh, yeah.
Because you could read it several times over and over again. And this is a good template to grade when a celebrity steps into a new world. So when a celebrity that's known for building worlds through albums, through mixtapes, even through singles, to hint at a world that you have to involve yourself in. And this comic does that exact same thing and then some. Use this as a template for anybody else. But they come out with, if LeBron came out with a comic, it better match up, because now this is a good high bar to set.
However, if you were to try to get your hands on a copy of The Weeknd, I'm just letting you know right now, it's gonna be a little difficult because this comic does not come without controversy. And yeah, this comic. First off, I want to say the story behind the reason why you can't find an issue 2 of Starboy is fucking wild. So
we're about to say a whole bunch of allegedly.
Alleged.
Plug it where you need.
Technically all this information is publicly available. However, to protect myself
and my black hair,
I don't really have a lot. I've got maybe a hot $30 in my account and 50 cents in my savings. So that no one comes after me for defamation. Allegedly. The Starboy, The Weeknd, got sued for this comic. Yep. And the reason why is because this gentleman named Eamon Talasazan. I'm sorry.
I'm not even correcting that one because I don't like him.
It is Eamon. Eamon Talasazan. He sued The Weeknd essentially for. Overall, it came down to trademark, and I'll get into a little bit about why. But essentially what happened is that back in 2014, Eamon claims that he came up with an idea in order to put a lot of different like R&B stars and rap stars into their own comic book universe, where they would take the likeness of different comic book stars and put them into their own universe, give them powers. I think I may have repeated myself, but you get the gist. And in 2016, after The Weeknd dropped his titular album, Starboy, he approached Abel with this idea, hey, what can I take your, likeness and put into a comic? Now, nothing actually has surfaced as to whether this is true or not, which is why I say alleged, but this is all coming from Eamon's side. So in 2017, Talazan approached, in 2016, Eamon claims that he trademarked the comic name Starboy so that he could then approach Abel with the idea to make it into a comic after the release of his album in 2017. Now that just doesn't make sense anyway, but this is what all of his claims. So regardless of all of that, essentially, after the comic was released in 2017-2018, Eamon files this lawsuit claiming that the idea is nearly identical to the one that Abel put out, and that Eamon wants all copies of the Starboy comic either recalled, impounded, or destroyed. At this point, there really isn't any more information on the case. However, I do want to point out that according to multiple sources, it looks like the case really isn't about the idea that they have the same idea, more about the fact that, and I did research, so this is kind of stupid, right?
Yep, we're excited and all, goddamn.
This is kind of stupid, right? Apparently, the Weeknd never trademarked Starboy as a name to use in neither Canada or the United States. I went into the Canadian and United States trademark database to see, and I double checked it with Starboy put together as one word, Starboy separated. However, it's also the same for Eamon. I saw no trademarks for either country, and I also saw when you go into the database, you can see if something gets like removed, or if it was withdrawn, or if it was denied. There was no denial, there was no removal, there was no nothing on the trademark at all. So neither person trademarked the name. However, so I don't know why this was even a problem. However, the case was supposedly supposed to be about what the case would boil down to is, can the Weeknd continue to use Starboy to brand all of his other stuff with, or should he have to basically go in and trademark if he wants to use Starboy comic, Starboy shoes, Starboy whatever the case may be. So that's essentially what it's supposed to boil down to. But nevertheless, at this point, issue 2 is basically nipped in the bud. You can't read number 2, even though it looks like he had to have had, with the way that number 1 came out and the way that number 2 is set up online. If you go and look up issue 2, they were going to release these.
Yeah.
They Marvel had it ready. There was going to be no wait. This was going to be a long ongoing series.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just annoying. And finally, the most annoying part of this is that, okay, like I said, alleged, but Eamon has 2 other cases that have to deal with copyright and fraud and trademark with 2 other people, and one case was filed against him. Mm-hmm. So Eamon's looking a little suspicious. I don't know. I'm not saying that Abel may be right or wrong. Abel definitely should have thought to trademark his work. However, and that's all I'm gonna say.
It's heartbreaking because this isn't even the first time, and as far as my memory goes, that something like this happened, where a creator using their own likeness and create something beautiful, and this is also a cautionary tale to other creators, because it's one thing to create a song, a story, a product at all, where you put your effort into your art. But if you don't do the small, tedious things, it's not like the Weeknd didn't have money to trademark Starboy. It just never, from the look of it, never occurred to him that he would have to protect himself and his rights like that. And then comes some guy that's like, oh, I had an idea like that before. But think about it. If this Eamon dude wanted to use the Weeknd's likeness, he would have needed permission to use the Weeknd's likeness in the first place.
Right.
But just because the Weeknd did not patent, quote unquote, Starboy as the name because he didn't feel the need to, now there's this lawsuit that stifled all the rest of his creativity. So if you're going to put it out, you also have to protect what you put out as well.
Absolutely.
And that's and the other instance that I could think about was back in 2008. Andre 3000?
Right.
With Class of 3000?
Such a good show.
One of my favorite Cartoon Network shows. I shit you not. The artwork where they didn't all have straight legs. They all had flowing character designs. The music was fire.
Oh yeah.
You know how hard it is to have an educational topic not just sound cool, but black people cool.
Oh yeah.
So
good.
But in 2008, because it went from 06 to 08, so it was canceled during the second season, and it's not because nobody was watching. Trust and believe that. But it was because a gentleman by the name of Timothy McGee made a lawsuit against Cartoon Network because allegedly he had submitted an idea for an inner city school taught by a former R&B singer or rap singer, but instead of having Andre 3000, his idea allegedly was to use Babyface.
Ew.
Babyface?
No disrespect to Babyface. I love his music.
Oh no, I love it. I love it. But Andre 3000, 3 Stacks, with the same level of creativity that he brought into Speaker Box and The Love Below, Southern Playlist to Cadillac.
You can tell who your favorite artist is.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely my favorite. He was the first one where I saw him wear whatever. In a direct contrast to Big Boy, who just set the standard for cool. Andre set the standard for creativity and freedom.
Oh, yeah.
He could literally wear whatever, make videos about whatever, and it was like
so
lyrically, he was just
I'm saying was Andre 3000 is,
but I
amazing.
could tell from a fan standpoint on the outside looking in. I could tell he put all of his effort into Class of 3000.
Oh, yeah.
And because of litigation shutting down something he invested everything into just because it wasn't protected the way it should have been, it stifled him. I've been waiting for an Andre 3000 solo album ever since Outkast made their last body of work together.
You know what the thing that really bugs me though is like these cases, like I said, with the Starboy comic case, their case has no public resolution. As far as when I went and looked into the case itself, like the case has no public resolution. Now that could mean one of two things: the case could have dropped, the case could be pending, they could have just held it out of court. But we'll never know because honestly, once something gets legal, whatever network or whatever company doesn't want to deal with it anymore, they don't want the hassle, and it's frustrating, and it's for me it's just like,
it's annoying.
Come on,
it
Abel.
is absolutely annoying.
He trademarked his actual name, The Weeknd, but didn't think to trademark Starboy, which was the name of his album. And it's
ridiculous.
But it's again, right, it's a cautionary tale, especially as someone who is a creator who's working on their own comic. Like, I get that, I understand that, like, just you, like, as a creative,
especially something like this that was so well executed with the hell of a first impression.
Like, you just forget, but it's just what it is. Like, a lot of artists, writers, like, all you're concerned about is creating and getting it out there. Like, you just gotta create. As a creative, you just gotta do it. Yeah. But there's never, often a lot of creators don't have the legal team. This was a case where he had the legal team. I just find it weird that no one ever stopped and said, "Hey, yo, Abel, did you trademark that?" Now, of course, I could be missing a lot of details. Of course, I only have the information available publicly.
We can only talk about what we see. It's all outside looking in. Don't use this as like a base of this is truth. But from what we saw as fans, from the little that we know, it's kind of heartbreaking that one issue. It is absolutely heartbreaking.
So devastated, and let me tell you.
And it stopped early because of something outside of a creative reason. It wasn't creative block. It wasn't writer's block. It wasn't, this was so bad that it flopped and we have to cut ties. It was beautiful. The Starboy, the one Starboy issue we got was beautiful. Mm-hmm. And dead too soon.
If you want to try to get a copy, I did get my copy. When did I get my copy? I got my copy 2020 off Mercury for $10. So, and the comic right now, I think it's valued at $20.25 right now, the last time I checked. So this comic will end up growing in popularity, or I guess I should say value, not popularity.
It'll definitely be a collector's item.
If you want a copy, you can go online and try to find a secondhand. No comic store is going to sell it to you. Nope. But you can find a secondhand. There are 2 covers. There's the red cover, which I think is the main cover. Then there's the black, which is a variant cover. The variant cover is obviously more expensive. You just got to hunt around the internet. However, I do think you can find it online. You might be able to. I don't really know. It's just a hard comic to get your hands on in general, but if you find a copy, I highly suggest it, especially for fans of The Weeknd, for someone who loves comics. If you're someone who likes gore, kind of like cyberpunk, hyper-futurism, that kind of stuff. If you're someone who likes a little introspectiveness. If you're someone who just likes The Weeknd, I think I said that twice, but who cares? If you like The Weeknd, you should find his comic. It's worth it, and it's a hell of a collector's item. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, we were going to put these two into one episode. However, we have a lot to say about the second comic, and I do think that it is worth having the second comic alone. So if you want to listen to part 2, stay tuned for when this comic drops, because when this episode drops, the second part of it will drop either a few days after or the following week instead of bi-weekly. So we're gonna call this the end of this episode. However, again, if you're interested in this comic, it was Starboy comic collaboration between The Weeknd and Marvel. If you can find it, good luck.
Good luck.
In the next episode, we are going to be reviewing Flame, which was created by Blaque Page Comics, written by Everett Montgomery, and illustrated by his lovely wife. We will respectfully call Mrs. Montgomery. If you're interested in listening to that review, just please stay tuned for episode 2. That's pretty much all I have for you guys. Do you have anything you want to say?
No, that's it. I mean, that was the good one. So now we can get to Flame, and y'all gonna have to hear some shit. Sorry, I'm just be prepared. Oh,
we didn't even close this out properly.
We didn't.
Let me rewind. Okay, and if you want to follow us.
Oh yeah.
If you want to follow us and find our content on the interwebs, where can they find you?
So I go by the name of Lloyd because that's how you can reach me on TikTok, where I do some short clips, usually about D&D stuff, but sometimes about these comic reviews that we do. Also,
sometimes just about me. You just
sometimes
just about me.
Yeah, except not at all.
Except.
Yeah, exactly. So TikTok, Twitter, Twitch as well, because I do stream pretty regularly throughout the week. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays to be exact. Go ahead and stop in and show some love and share some of that energy. So Instagram, Twitch, and TikTok and Twitter are all Lloyd8, but then on YouTube I have Space Case Camp, which is what you can find my videos under as we release those. So that's about it for me.
Yeah, and if you want to follow me, it is Blaque and Kulture. Just type it in the way that it's spelled. I'm on Twitter, which, by the way, follow me on Twitter because I'm funny. Shut up.
You can find it there.
It's Blaque and Kulture 1, and I am funny on Twitter. Not really, but it would be really nice if you followed me. And you can also follow me on Instagram, Blaque and Kulture Official. You can follow me on YouTube, Blaque and Kulture. You can follow me on TikTok, Blaque and Kulture. And also, I'm on I don't know if you're familiar with the Quip app, but it's a Black-owned app ran by minorities, for minorities, and other people who like nerdy stuff. It's really fun. I have some TikToks up there. I kind of post randomly there. So if you are interested in that app, shout out to them because they make amazing content for Quip. It is just Blaque. It's literally just at Blaque on Quip. So you should follow me there. And lastly, we have another podcast. It is called the Good Culture Podcast. And literally the day after our episode 2 of the Blaque, because by the time you hear this, literally episode 2 of Blaque Coffee Comics podcast will be out. Episode 1 of season 2 of the Good Culture Podcast, featuring an entirely full crew. We've got Queen Miyazaki, formerly known as the Prettiest Otaku. We've got Exo Takamura, aka Dante, who's fucking hilarious.
Oh man, that's the homie right there.
And of course, me and Lloyd, all 4 of us. It is our very first episode. It's titled New Year, New Crew. We have a blast. We talk about Pixar moms. We talk about Black representation. We talk about anime that's coming out. It's just it's a ride. And you should watch it because I promise you will laugh out loud. I laughed out loud twice while editing it. It's that funny. So yeah, that's basically everything we've got here. And thank you so much for listening to us. I know this episode was a bit short, but that means that you'll have enough mental capacity to handle episode part 2. So yeah. We love you. Thank you so much for your support and listening to this podcast again. It means the world to us, and we will see you next time. Bye!